Today we're going to look at unordered and ordered lists. Now, lists are pretty much an everyday part of life, right? We're constantly putting together lists. You know, you think of a recipe and you have to have a list of ingredients. If you go to the grocery store, you have to have a list of items you have to buy. And if you look at virtually every web page, they will always have some sort of list. And whether that's a menu or just a bullet list, we're always putting together lists. Now, HTML provides two main ways to do lists: unordered and ordered lists. And as we looked at in the previous lessons, it's just a simple tag that we need to create. And so an unordered list is created with the UL tag, and an ordered list is created with the OL tag. Now, I will say right off the bat that unordered lists is kind of the default thing people use when they're designing websites. I would say ordered lists are used to a lesser extent, but we'll look at both of these today. Now, what's common to both unordered and ordered lists is the LI element tag. Now, the LI element is actually the list item, and I will show you that here in a few minutes. So again, unordered lists and ordered lists. And again, both will use the LI element tag, which is embedded inside either the OL or the UL element. And so let's first take a look at an unordered list. Okay, so within our body tag, and remember, everything goes within the body element. So let's go ahead and create our UL tag, and then let's go ahead and close it. And now we've got our unordered list element. Now let's hit the tab button so that we can read these easier, and then create a couple spaces, and then we'll create our first LI tag. And remember, this is where our actual list element goes. So let's imagine we're creating a menu for our website, and we want to sell CDs, DVDs, and Blu-rays. So the first list item that we'll put will be CD. So again, we'll just close that. And we can go ahead now and just go ahead and copy and paste that. And we have to create another list item for our DVD. And let's go ahead and create a list element for Blu-rays. Okay, great. And actually, let's create a space there, and now this is nice and neat. And so now we've got our nice list that we want to display on our web page. And of course, we use the list tag to accomplish that. So let's go ahead now and render this web page, and let's save this as an HTML document. And there you see, we've got our nice list here displayed. Now later on, when we get to the CSS tutorials, we will actually use this HTML ordered list and create a very fancy menu. We'll use CSS to style each one of these list element tags and create nice hover menus and add colors and all sorts of things. But for now, you need to understand how the HTML works at a base level before we get to CSS. So let's go ahead and go back into the code, and we'll look at an ordered list now. And it's very similar, actually. We just need to, actually we'll do a little bit of copy and pasting here. So we'll just take this, and we will just create our OL tags here. And let's go ahead and save this as an HTML file again. And there you see the difference. This is why this is called a ordered list, because we have numbers here. That's really the only difference. This one creates bullets, and this one creates numbers. So it's really what you prefer to use. Now later on, when we get to CSS, like I said, we will style each one of these tags and create a lot of different effects. And one of the things you can do is you can actually remove these bullet points and numbers with CSS. But again, we'll get to that when we get to CSS. Okay, we're going to look at creating a table using HTML. Now, when you're dealing with large amounts of tabular data, tables are definitely the way to go to display this information. And it's a quick and easy way for your users to understand the data you are displaying. Now, again, we will create these in HTML, and later I will teach you how to stylize these using CSS to give them an awesome look. Now, tables are like normal tables. They are made up with data that contain rows and columns. And of course, rows go side to side and columns go downwards. Now, there are four central elements to use when creating a table. First is the table element, which everything is embedded inside of. Then there's the TR element, which identifies it as a table row. And then there is the TD element, which contains the actual data. And furthermore, the TH element identifies it as a column. So let's go through all of these right now. Okay, so first we will create the table element. And we identify this as a table with a closing and ending table tag. And let's set up the column first. So we will use a TR element tag. And then, like I said, we will actually create the columns using the TH tag. And we're going to call this the planets. And let's make 2 more columns. We'll have another one called the oceans. And we will create another column called the deserts. Now let's create some data to put in those columns. So again, we're going to use the table row tag to create a table row. Now you might be wondering why we used a table row tag for the column. And the reason is it is still a table row. If you think about it, it still goes sideways. This just identifies it as a column. Okay, so we're going to create, again, the table row to hold our data. And we're going to use the TD tag now to hold our data. And the first piece of data we will store is called Earth. That is obviously a planet, and we will close that. And so this table data space will correspond with this first column. It goes in a top-down order. So again, this data will correspond with this column. It is the first position within these TR elements. That's how it lines up. So just keep that in mind. So the next cell will contain an ocean, and we're going to call this the Pacific. And then the next cell will contain data that will have a desert, and we will call that the Sahara. And again, we need to close this. And actually, you know what? I forgot to close these. So let's go ahead and close these. And now let's go ahead and save this, and we will open this up. And there you can see, here are our columns. You'll notice that the columns are put in bold by HTML, and the tables are not in bold. So just keep that in mind. Now, let's say we wanted to add another desert, another ocean, another planet. We can do that relatively simply. We just go back into our source code, and we will copy and paste this and create a completely new row. And here we will put in Pluto. Who knows if Pluto is still a planet, but we're going to say it is. We will put in the Atlantic for the ocean. And for the desert, we will put in the Gobi Desert. And you can see how these align again. So it's always this first position. So the planets are here. The oceans are in the second position. And the deserts in the third position. Okay, let's go ahead and save this now. And we will render this again, and there you can see we've got our new row with our new data. Now when we get to CSS, as I said before, we will stylize these, and we can create menus off of this. We can create shopping carts to do totals, all kinds of things with tables. Okay, we're going to look at adding links to your web page. Now, what would your web page be without links? Well, it wouldn't be much. Navigation is a key consideration into designing your website, and so we will begin with adding links to your web page. Now there are 2 ways to add links. First is to link to an outside web page, and second is to link to a section within your web page. In this video, we are going to cover linking to an outside URL. Now links are added with the anchor element, and within the anchor element is an attribute called href. And that tells the anchor element where the destination is for the link. And the destination can be, like I said, it can be a web page on the same site, or it can link to an outside website. And as I said, we will link to an outside URL in this video. Okay, so let's first create a P element, or if you remember, this stands for paragraph, because we need to add some text and sentences inside and around our link. So we'll embed everything within that. And now we will add our anchor tag. Now, within the opening A tag and opening P tag, we are going to create some text, and we are going to say, please click on this link. And this will just come out as straight text, and it will come out before our link, which is embedded in here. And now we're going to create the href attribute. We're going to hit equals, and then you're going to put in quotes, and here is where we're going to put in our outside URL that we want to link to in our web page. And in this case, I am just going to link to my YouTube channel page. So we'll go ahead and just copy and paste that in here, and we have to create a end quote. Now we can add some text before we make the closing anchor tag, and that text will become the link. So this does not actually get displayed. What will be displayed as a link is the text that we put in here. So we will say EJ Media channel page. And actually, I think I made a mistake here. We need to actually keep this tag open. So this actually has to stay open. We do not use an angle bracket here because this is all part of the link. So again, if you put that angle bracket in, get rid of it, and now this should work. Let's go ahead and save this. And let's actually do something different here. Let's actually open this up within Google Chrome. And you can see we've got our link now. And if we click on that, it should go to my YouTube channel page. And it did. Now, if we pull up the source here, you can see that there is the text again where we said, please click on this link. That is not actually part of the link because it comes before the A element, the anchor element. And there you can see the text that we created for our link, and that is part of the link because we put that between the closing angle bracket and the closing anchor tag. So that becomes part of the link, and obviously that's a little bit easier to read than the actual URL. And obviously you guys have seen that many times when you've been out on the web. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. In the next video, we will look at links again, and we will look at linking within an existing web page.